People are starting to show up. Happy Friday. Hi. Hi, Michelle. We give up people a couple more minutes to show up, and we'll get started. Hi, Christina. All right, happy Friday. So the topic that I wanted to talk about today is dealing with irritability and anger and frustration. This week in my sessions, I have noticed that a lot of people are really struggling with like snippiness or kind of eye rolling, and I have to say, like, I'm included, and I've been trying to really dissect what's going on for me, and I wanted to share some things that I'm noticing and I'm hearing people say. But I also want to hear from you guys. Like, have you noticed any increase in irritability for yourself? Are you noticing that you're like living with somebody or around people that seem to like their patience is different? Okay, hold on a second. I think I have a technical issue that is showing that there's nothing happening live. Michelle and Christina, thank you for being patient. All right. So a couple of things that I'm hearing from people is that it depends on really the generation that you're talking to. So like the younger generation, meaning like people under retirement age, I'm noticing are saying a lot of things about like feeling like their body and their brains want to do different things. Like their body wants to go out and like be productive and run or work, and they can't. And that their brains are saying one thing and their bodies are kind of having to sit still. And there's a laziness that people are saying that they feel like, just, I don't want to take a shower. I don't want to do anything. And one of the things that we talked about in the last couple of weeks is all about creating structure around our days. And that's really important. Although, if that's not working, I kind of want to go to like that next level down of like other things that might be causing that irritability. So, I think it's really an issue knowing that we're not being true to ourselves in a lot of ways. Like if we're usually hi John, if we're trying really hard to be productive every day, but then we can't go and do the things that we normally would do to be productive, it's like this contradiction, this role strain of trying to be these two different things. Hi Carrie. And that's really confusing for us. So myself included in this, I feel like I have all these different things, and last week I had one day that I was a principal and for 15 minutes with my kids, and then I had to talk to the teacher, so then I was a parent, and then I was a clinician, and then a manager, and all those things, and literally I was just like changing these hats from like minute to minute. It was making me feel really overwhelmed and overstimulated. And that's part of the anger and irritability I think a lot of people are dealing with. I'm also noticing with the population that are retirement age and over that they're genuinely grieving their time, the time that they're losing from each day. They're like, oh, I have one less day of my life, and this is real. Somebody asked me the other day, well, Jen, it sounds like, how is that grief and not disappointment? And I started thinking about it because there's a lot of disappointments going on. People's weddings not being had, graduations, proms, just financial stuff. Like people are grieving when they look at their bank account. And I think the difference between grief and disappointment is the process that we need to go through in order to get through it. So for instance, disappointment's like, oh man, I feel really sad that I can't do whatever it is that we want to do. But grief is when we actually have to like go through a process of better understanding our feelings. Like there's those stages that we talk about, like bargaining, like, well, maybe I can just go and we can do this instead, or whatever it is. And then the depression, and people are finding themselves laying in bed a lot and not really be able to understand how and why they're feeling the way that they're feeling. another point that I want to make is like this amplified emotion. Like if people feel down, it's like really down. If people are feeling up, it's it's better. So we want to, and there's not a lot of distractions from our feelings. But I want to hear from you guys. Like, what kind of things are you seeing, like in your home or at work? I'm curious if you have any questions about why people are being more difficult right now. Another thing that I'm seeing that I think is really interesting is that a lot of people are looking for blame. People want to like kind of point fingers at each other and shame. And I find that really interesting in us having difficulties with better appreciating where other people might be going through, like at the grocery store when somebody's walking down the wrong way in the aisle, or somebody's not wearing their mask. Like I'm noticing that people are getting very angry at people who aren't following those social norms. And that's part of the process of kind of accepting that we're all at different places. So I have a question from Christina. She says, all my friends and I have been laughing about how snappy we are, all being to our loved ones around the house. It's funny after the fact, but actually kind of horrible and unlike all of us. Any tips or tricks to help us mitigate long-term irritability and not drive our loved ones crazy? Oh my God, this is exactly why I wanted to talk about this. I'm noticing, like I said, I'm noticing with myself, and I know better. Like I should be, making sure that I'm doing everything as best I can, but I'm finding myself like eye rolling and stuff. And I think that first of all, the role strain that I was just talking about, wearing all these different hats, the inability to be productive, I think all these things are contributing, and we're noticing these little things that other people are doing that drive us crazy. Those things that we were able to kind of go, oh, it's not that big of a deal. We're being inundated with these same behaviors over and over again. Telling our kids to clean up. We used to be able to only have to do that from like 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Now it's 24 hours a day. And we constantly feel like there's something to do as far as like cleaning or mundane tasks without the purpose in there. So how do we not fall into that trap? I think taking a step away is really important. We have to like get out of that space and reset. And I don't even care what we do. Like just go for a walk, if you have an empty office that you can go to, or go for a drive, whatever it is, like we just want to make sure that we're doing that. I do appreciate, Christina, what you're saying is interjecting humor into the snippiness, because that's a great way of kind of, like you said, kind of mitigate that negative response. I think that another thing is the whole I think it's boredom's a little bit in here too. We're not doing anything exciting, so we almost have to mix it up a little bit and create a little bit of drama for ourselves just so that we can get through the days. I think it's mild, but it's in there. John just asked a question. Thank you, John. He said, I've been writing down new opportunities during these times in lieu of complaining about how we want things to go back to normal. Excellent idea. I love that. Such as, I'm watching my son learn in 2nd grade instead of the usual, how was your day at school today? With a typical kid response, good. The more I write down, the better I seem to feel. I think that's a great coping skill, to just write out your feelings and be able to, I even like the idea of using this time to chronicle things that are going on in your life, or even your emotional experience. I'm finding myself using a lot of this time to think about the psychology behind it all, which is my forte. But in the psychological term, really, I'm using it as a defense mechanism. I'm defending myself from feeling vulnerable right now by trying to outthink it all. And I love what you're saying. You're using it as an opportunity, and that's another great coping skill. So thanks, John. These are great suggestions. Emily has written, thanks, Emily. Have you been seeing people with true fear about leaving the house? I'm worried that soon that might happen to me. It's a great question. I am noticing people becoming very routined in staying at home, and that there's some social anxiety. People are getting a little rusty with some social skills. And with that, if somebody already is prone to social anxiety, they're definitely going to struggle a little bit more with interjecting back into the community. One of the key components about anxiety is avoidance. Avoidance and anxiety are BFFs, and basically we have to break them up. So one of a huge piece of anxiety is to test ourselves by going into public, and I know right now we can't really do that, but testing ourselves to overcome those fears. So I really genuinely think for people who are strengths focused and who are resilient, they're going to be okay with interjecting themselves back into the community. But the same way we transitioned into this process, we're going to transition back out, and that'll be a process too. And we have to be patient with other people who are at different parts of that process, which brings me back a little bit to like people who aren't wearing their masks, for instance. They're at a different stage of the process. They might be in denial right now about the severity of what's going on, or they might be even in a little bit of a rebellious stage, and we have to be a little bit cognizant of where they might be in their process and be patient with that we just happen to be at a different stage. So yeah, I think that that's a stage that a lot of people are going to have to go through, of interjecting themselves back into life. As a matter of fact, I heard of somebody who on Monday, they were called on Sunday and said, hey, you have to go back to work full time. And that person was like, are you kidding me? Like, they just weren't prepared to go back to their normal lives. And we have to be patient with people needing to go through that process too. Another thing that I'm noticing that I think is really interesting is the idea of, I'm noticing a lot of like conspiracy theories. Anybody notice those? And I don't know what's true and what's not true, but I almost feel like that's a little bit of like trying to deal with understanding what's going on a little bit better. And by creating these theories, it's almost like an intellectualizing of what's going on. So the good side is it's a great use of like your mental energy to stay stimulated. The bad news about it is it might actually fuel our anger, and we have to be careful about that. So if there's nothing we can do about it and we're not even sure that it's true, just be really careful about spending too much time on things that make you feel angry. Do you have any other thoughts? You know, ultimately, I just want to make sure that people are recognizing that everybody is going through an enormous transition right now. This is not easy for anyone, and everybody handles these transitions differently. It may be by isolating, it might be by being angry, it might be frustration, you know, and the eye rolling, but ultimately everybody's going through a little bit of a crisis right now, and we have to be really patient with other people as they go through it, and patient with ourselves. And unfortunately, there's no light at the end of the tunnel as far as the transitions we're going to have to keep making. So the other piece of it is no matter what, we're always going through transitions, with or without the coronavirus looming. Like, life is constantly evolving, and this is almost like a crash course in helping with that evolution, or teaching ourselves how to be resilient and having that growth mindset. So be patient. Be patient. All right. So that is, that's about it that I have to say. I think that the irritability that we have with each other, like, just make sure that we're keeping a structure to our days, making sure that we feel productive every day, making sure that we are being mindful about how we're spending our time. So watching TV isn't mindful. That's not a mindful act. It's a passive coping skill. But there are active coping skills that we can use that will help us actually recharge our battery. And things like that would be, when you're watching TV, to be looking for something inspiring in it. so that you can take that and go and do artwork, or to meditate or focus on gratitude, or whatever it is that you're intentionally using that time to feel good. And I like what John had said earlier about using like almost like a journaling process of appreciating this time. I really think people should write the book that everybody has in their heads but nobody's putting down on paper. So if you need any other ideas or suggestions, give me a call and I can certainly brainstorm with you. You can also go on our website, Clarity Health FL, and just put in there some of your, look at our blog and read it. You can also send me ideas through the week of things that you might want to talk about for next Friday. And if you need anything, give us a call at 561-781-3333. Thanks so much. I appreciate you. Have a great weekend. Hang in there. We got this.